Yeah.
I'm joined by Pete Dankelson. Do you go by Pete or Peter the most?
Peter. Yeah.
Okay, we'll do Peter. You've taken the internet by storm. I've been watching you on Instagram for 2 or 3 years,
Mhm.
and it's nice to see a young person playing this rock stuff. It's been really nice to see that. And you have two books that came out. One, Peter's Rockaneer. This is more for early kids,
Yeah.
and this is the for anyone. It's
Mhm.
not a long book, but it's a hard read because those first 70 pages are difficult. Like the things you had to go through. I think that's why you have such a good focus on being a guitar player, because
Mhm.
you've had a hard enough life to know what's important, and I think that is good for your ego. But um, so you had so you're 23,
22.
22.
Yep.
How many surgeries have you had to have?
I think, let's see. Oh man. I've lost track.
So that's
The other day, but I know it's like way over 20.
it's like 30, I think 32 or 36.
Yeah, I think it might be even over 30. Yeah, it's close to that. Yeah, I've lost track.
If you've lost track of surgery count, that's already enough. I think
I guess so.
at that point it's immaterial. But
Mhm.
um, I think everybody should read this. There's more than one lesson in it. There's the lesson
Yeah, yeah.
of
Basically, I mean, like the whole point of the book really was, people on social media, they see me playing guitar and jamming and all that stuff, but there's this whole other side, to my story that with all of those medical challenges and the social challenges of like I was born with one ear, which it was part of a package deal, I guess you could call it, of something called golden heart syndrome. That's the condition that I was born with, and lots of stuff that's going on. The missing ear. I was born with what they call a single pelvic kidney. So instead of two in the back, it's one in the front. I have like a little something going on with my heart. Nothing serious, but something there. I had numerous surgeries for my jaw and airway to help me breathe better. I had an open stoma for many years, for 19 years, and a trach for 4 of those years. So, I mean, lots and lots of stuff going on. So the book really kind of, it talks about and dives into that medical journey and kind of shares that side of my story and a lot of the challenges that kind of went along with that. And really, it was mom's passion project because, especially, the early years, because I don't remember those, but, it was, mom really kind of, talked about those early years. And when it kind of got to a point when, my memory could actually kick in. That was when I could kind of join in and share my experiences with, oh, okay, I do remember this, and how I felt in the situation or what it was like, with especially with like the jaw surgery and the airway surgery from 2017 and 2019. So I could really kind of, shed some light and share my experiences of, okay, this is how it felt to actually be in that position a little bit. So so that's mainly what the book was for. It was for to kind of share that side of my story that people on social media might not know much about.
yeah, and there's also some other stories advocating for loved ones in the hospital.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that's been a big one in my life,
mhm,
is making sure that people have somebody there to ask the questions. And then you use the guitar, when you found that, it comforted you. It got you through a lot of these things.
mhm. Yeah. The guitar was a big. I mean, it was basically a coping mechanism. I mean, basically, especially in 2017, I had this huge jaw surgery, and I mean that was pretty intense. I mean, it was the whole, it was this whole crazy thing. I had a whole custom made, TMJ joint made, and they grafted that to the left side, and they moved the lower jaw forward, and to smooth everything out, they took bone from my skull and grafted it to the right side to smooth everything out. So it was this whole intense procedure, that took up my whole summer. Um, So I mean, it was this whole crazy ordeal, and I always I always joked it felt like a boss battle in a video game, because for my whole life up until that point it was like, okay, oh, okay, he's going to have this jaw surgery, and whenever, and that's like that day finally came, and it's just like, okay, I've been hearing about it for my whole life, and here we are. And then, went through that, and that was pretty intense. But the big one was right after high school. I graduated high school in 2019. In the fall, I had a massive airway surgery. And basically, the main point of that jaw surgery was, now that my jaw was moved forward, it enlarged my airway. So basically, it's like, okay, now that this is done, we can finally look at getting the open stoma closed, the hole in the neck. So that was a big one. And I didn't expect it to. The thing was, and I mean, me and mom had both even thought about this when we went in for the appointment, to kind of talk about what this procedure was going to be. It was kind of, we were kind of thinking, okay, how complicated can this be? You just go in and you're basically, you're stitching a hole closed, right? Turns out it was way more complicated and intense than either of us could have imagined. And it was going to be even tougher than the jaw surgery. So I mean, I'll never forget, sitting in that office, kind of hearing what this was going to be. They were going to take like cartilage from my thyroid, and completely, it was just, I mean, basically, reconstruction of the airway. I mean, really, intense stuff. So, I mean, that was, you kind of had the weight of the world kind of drop on your shoulders there for a moment. It's just kind of like, holy smokes, what you thought was going to be something relatively, simple, um, turn into this whole crazy ordeal. You're just kind of like, oh, whoa. And I mean, I mean, I'll never forget, I still went to school that day. I, broke down in the car, just like, I thought I was done with surgeries, and this kind of, came out of nowhere. And it was pretty intense. And I mean, the guitar was a huge coping mechanism. Just picking it up, and whether it was jamming a favorite song or just noodling around, it was definitely something that just kind of, no matter what I was playing, just having it in my hands or having it close by just kind of helped me calm down and relax a little bit, and kind of help ease my anxiety. And even when I was in the hospital and I was well enough to, move around and kind of get up and move, music therapy, they'd bring in a guitar. I'd go down to the the music therapy room, and I'd sit there and just kind of fiddle around with something, and it helps, So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And in the book, the stoma, that was the
Yeah.
thing that was like, you guys couldn't seal it too early. You had to wait until other things were correct. So this was kind
Right.
of the thing lurking for you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and the jaw was such a difference. There's a side by side picture in the book, and it
Yes.
really, like, I was showing my wife, she's like, "Oh, now he looks just like a man."
Right. Yeah.
It it helped do that.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's wild. Actually, it's funny. I always joke, if you take my, in high school, if you take my four, student IDs and you line them up each year, there's something new and different going on with me. So it's hilarious, because it's like, oh, freshman year, pre-jaw surgery, of course, and I didn't have the Baja at the time. And I look so much younger, freshman and everything. So, there's that. I look completely different. Sophomore year, I have the Baja, the cochlear implant. I have that. Uh, Junior year, I mean, I had the junior year, so I had the jaw surgery in between my sophomore and junior year of high school. So my junior year, my face is all swollen and puffy. So I mean, that was a big jump from sophomore to junior year. Looking at the photo IDs, and then senior year, the swelling finally went down. And so I mean, it's just kind of hilarious looking at all four photos, and it's just like how different I looked in each, every single year of high school. And what's even funnier is you know or at least how it was at our school, if I was a senior, they used your junior year, photo.
Oh,
So senior year, I had the photo of me when my face was all puffy and swollen, on my student ID, and I'm joking. I'm like, I was like a totally different person now. Am I going to get like, denied from, the football game or whatever? I was joking with some friends about that. So, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty wild. It's still crazy. If I see those photos side by side, I'm just like, wow, what a difference.
And you had agency over this. You could have said no to some of these
Yeah.
surgeries. You had to really weigh this out. Like, how was that being so in that position, having to weigh out like the most painful recovery might be the best for you long term, and that's a decision most people can't make even
Mhm.
in their 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it was all about the end goal, not the long term thing. To me, it's like what's going to give you the best results, and and of course, it was the toughest one. So it's kind of like okay, because I mean, there was like with the jaw surgery, I had a choice. There were two people that we were kind of deciding between, and the first one, it was going to be like another distraction because the first jaw surgery I had when I was little, that was what they called a distraction, where basically, I mean, it's kind of wild. They have these. I guess it's plates. I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been quite a while since I've had to think about it, but I think it's like plates and screws, and they have that. They have these things like attached to, the jawbone, and there's these pins that stick out of your chin. And I mean, they'll take a screwdriver. You take basically a screwdriver and you turn them like a half a millimeter or something, or something like that. Like every day, new bone will grow in between those spaces. I mean, it's wild. It's really crazy. But I mean, it sounded like with that procedure, it wouldn't be as great long term as going with the implant. So it was kind of like, okay, I think the implant's the way to go. So,
Well,
um,
it was definitely heartbreaking reading about how like you would have as a kid anxiety just getting near the hospital exit.
oh, panic attacks, full
Yeah.
blown panic attacks. Yeah, anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, complete freakouts. And as a kid, it's not like my parents could explain to me, and I didn't. I was so young, I didn't know the difference between like going in for, just a checkup, or just to talk with the nephrologist, you know, um, or going in to get labs. I didn't know the difference between that. It's just like, oh no, here we are. I don't know what's going to happen. And of course, over time, I understand. You understand the difference between, okay, we're going in for a checkup with the nephrologist. He's likely going to want labs done, or whatever it's going to be. Okay, so okay, there's that in the cards, or okay, we're going in to get X-rays of my back. Okay, so it's just going to be you stand in front of the big machine with the heavy gown, or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Well, definitely. As a parent myself, I don't
Mhm.
even like to see them get a shot. So your
Yeah.
parents deserve a medal. I mean, they just it had to have been hard on all of you, and it's really
Mhm.
impressive. This book is just a must read. I think it can apply to anyone and anywhere. And the past people I've talked to on this channel, Kiko Loureiro, who's a big fan,
Nice. Yeah.
and Rafael Pinzado, he plays Vic Rattlehead on stage, and he's Dave Mustaine's
Mm.
kind of right hand man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's in your book, you're the same. You all share a certain way of dealing with stuff
Mhm.
that you have. And I got to say, your guitar playing is amazing. I mean, you were
Thank
really
you.
good.
Thanks. Yeah. Having fun. Yeah.
You're not just the person that has these problems that plays guitar. You're on your own. It speaks for itself. I was just watching you play the Hell's Bells solo,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I like your outtakes, the sneeze that you just posted.
Yeah. That was too funny. I mean, I was sitting down. I'm like, let's do like a jam. Like, let's just kind of fire up a backing track and just kind of, jam along and have some fun with them props. And I'm sitting there playing, and I'm like, ooh. I'm like, I feel this sneeze coming on. And so it sneezed, and I'm like, let's just kind of keep going with it. And I didn't like the tape, and I'm like, well, I'm like, all right, what happened with the sneeze? I'm like, that was kind of funny. And I watched, and I was cracking up. I'm like, that's too funny. It's like sometimes you just got to share the goofy moments.
Yeah, it shows that we're
And
all.
it's real. It's real. I mean, it's funny. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that, maybe sometimes people don't think about that either. Like, what happens when you sneeze during a guitar solo? Yeah, sometimes you got to laugh at the weird, goofy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, what happens to me is I'll forget to turn my notifications off and be doing a video playing, and on all of a sudden I'll get text dings,
Mhm.
And one time it was perfectly to the metronome. It was perfectly in time. So I just posted it with it, and it was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So AC/DC
Yeah.
playing on your birthday.
I know. How wild is that? I mean, it was crazy. I mean, my family, we were on vacation and it was like, they started, all of these different, like Metallica, like all the bands that were playing there were kind of started, they started showing these teasers of Power Trip. And, it's like, I've been waiting, for the band to come back forever. I've been, I picked up the guitar in 2016 and the Rocker Bus tour. It ended in like the fall, I think, of 2016. So and it didn't come to Chicago during the summer. So it's kind of like, oh, okay, the tour's done. Okay, maybe it'll be a few years or so, and then and then of course, yeah, it was just this whole, it's like if you're an ACDC fan, you know how crazy it's been since that tour ended. Malcolm unfortunately passed away, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like what's going to happen. And then when the new album came out in 2020, it was like this is amazing. It's so great to hear that they're back, and it's like, of course, this is when the pandemic's going on. So I'm like, are you kidding me? It's kind of like it's great to have the album to jam out and listen to and enjoy. It's like, oh man, when are they gonna take this on the road? I guess we'll have to wait for a while. Um, but it's wild too because the first single from Power Up was a song "Shot in the Dark," and that came out on my birthday. Like it like dropped like that night. So I'm like, oh, this is great. And then when I
Wow.
saw, the Power Trip got announced and that they were going to be coming back and doing the festival, and I couldn't believe that. Yeah, the date of all days was October 7th. So I'm like, are you kidding me? So I don't know what the deal is with ACDC and October 7th, but keep it up, guys. This is,
Yeah, keep
yeah,
it up.
great. Yeah.
Exactly. So are you going to
Yeah.
get to meet him?
Meet him? I'm not expecting. No, I wouldn't think. I'm not
Surely we
expecting.
can get.
No, I'm just looking forward to the show. I mean, Angus is my guy. I mean, you see me playing the SG. I have a Marshall and all that. Angus has always been like my biggest influence. So I'm just looking forward to see him play. To see him in person and hear all of these songs and just watch them do their thing. I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. Both on your birthday, the single and
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm just like, are you kidding? Like, that's just too funny. Yeah.
So do you? I mean, do you? You said you were talking about setting goals. Do you apply that to the guitar? Do you have anything you're working towards right now? I know you play a lot of songs and solos very well. One of
Mhm.
my favorite things is jamming over a backing track.
Yeah.
But do you get into any learning new theory things, or are you strictly just playing whatever you want by ear?
I haven't really tried to like push myself with like new like theory kind of techniques in a little while. So I should try and sit down and try and take a look at some stuff and see what I could find that would stick. Because that's kind of the tricky part with me. If I don't find something that that speaks to me musically, I'm like, well, I can sit here and figure this out, but I'm like, if I don't use it, I'll lose it. So I'm not, so sometimes it's kind of like, I can try and sit with it for a while,
Mhm.
but I'll probably end up, unfortunately, forgetting it. So it's kind of like, or, I'll try and look at it and see, like, is there something that I can at least take from that, that
Yes.
I know, can work in this kind of context. So it's kind of a balance of that. But I mean, so I mean, I don't know if that would be like a short term or long term goal, but the long term goal right now is the band's working on writing a full length album. About a month ago, me and Mac, he plays bass and sings in the band. We were out in California and did some songwriting sessions, and we wrote 5 tunes in 5 days, and
Wow.
came back home, and actually, it's kind of a bummer right now. We we just got the demos back, and we've kind of been fooling around with them. But like right when we got the demos back, Max unfortunately been really sick. Like so he's kind of been so like we just did this kind of band competition thing. So I just step up to the mic and sing a little bit and kind of help him out. So it's kind of it's been a little. I mean, I guess it's been a bit of a fiasco right now, but we're powering through. We're doing a show tomorrow night, and Max seems to be getting better and feeling really good. So we're dying to, because we have the demos now. We've been learning these new tunes. We just haven't gotten together, together to jam with them, to jam them and get them tightened up to start playing them live. So it's kind of like all three of us are like, we're dying to start, throwing them in the set and seeing what people think. But yeah, unfortunately, not yet. Soon though, as soon as Max, feeling good enough to sing them, they'll be in the set for sure. So yeah, it's kind of yeah, we're all kind of waiting right now.
I'm glad you said that. So I was going to ask if you guys were doing any original stuff. And for those that don't know, you have a trio.
Yep. Yep.
How long have you had that going?
The trio has been going on for 2 years now. And that's been really fun. Basically, it started out with we all knew each other from a School of Rock. There's the local School of Rock that was close by, and Ryan, who's the drummer, he was the drum instructor there for a while, and then kind of like I think it was a little after COVID hit, and we could kind of start. We couldn't play live shows or anything, but like we could kind of hang out a little bit. We were kind of jamming a little bit, and I had some riff ideas. So like really like 2020 and a little bit of 2021 was just the two of us just kind of getting together and just jamming, really just having fun, kind of putting song ideas together and just fooling around with different riffs. And then it's kind of like, well, okay, this is great, we want to start playing live, but who's gonna sing and play bass? And I'm like, I don't want to sing. so School of Rock had a performance show, and Mac's always been a really good friend. So, seeing Mac play and perform, it's like, let's have him over and just jam and just have, just show him one of the new riffs or whatever and just kind of fool around with it and just have some fun. So Mac came over and, we jammed, and he was nice enough to pick up the bass, and, and we just decided to roll with the trio format. So and that's how we've been rolling with it ever since. So that's been a lot of fun. And, just kind of, it's been like really just over time, building up, a local following, trying to get local shows and gigs. And hopefully with this new record that we're writing, hopefully it can kind of start to open up some more doors. And, of course, give, put out music that people are going to enjoy. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
What style, like what are the demos like is musically? What style are you guys going? I can guess, but let's hear from the source.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard rock, it's kind of that AC/DC kind of swagger, feel good rock and roll, up tempo, feel good rock and stuff. So yeah, it'll be a party album. It'll be a feel good record. Yeah.
I keep reading on the internet that younger people don't want to do that, and it's glad to see that they're wrong. It wasn't long in 2019. A lot of people were saying the guitar's dead as an instrument, going the way of the piano, where you just don't see it much. And that's one positive thing that came out of COVID is a lot of guitar players went back in.
Yeah,
me included. I haven't played since 07. I was a drummer.
Yeah.
So I could tell, like, maybe you don't have the ear, but your brain's better than mine because I pick drums. You pick guitar. That's the smart person. I'm making the joke that drummers are cavemen.
Me and Mac tease Ryan about that all the time. We're like, we were like, that was pretty good for a drummer,
Yeah. You need help making your lunch, buddy, or
yeah. Yeah.
So it's refreshing to hear that you're gonna do a hard rock album. There's a guy in the mentorship from China that's doing stuff that sounds like 80s power metal. And as somebody growing up in that era, it's like, everything's going to be okay, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, I don't know if underground is more the right word, but I guess not mainstream, it's just not mainstream, but there's so many great, up and coming rock and roll bands like Dirty Honey, Brian and the Shakedown. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of great bands out there. People just need to listen and look,
Oh, we will. I'm going to look those up when we're done with this, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, those two I mentioned are great. He's a great guitar player. He just came out with a great album earlier this year. Jared James Nichols, he's amazing. He's a really, really good guitar player. Yeah, there's lots of really good up and coming rock and roll bands. So when people say like, "Oh, there's no good new rock bands," it's like, I don't know about that. Like, I just don't think you're looking hard enough. You know?
Exactly. I think it's always
Yeah,
going to be there to some extent.
yeah.
I know a lot of people like to do the take a left turn in the Tim Henson area where it's
Oh yeah,
very difficult and technical.
yeah.
But I think, and you mentioned in your book that the Beatles, not your favorite band early on, but you started
At
to
the time,
at the time.
yeah.
And I think what happened with them is they beautifully mixed pop, and then they put enough little side turns in it for musicians to go, I see what you did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the power of simpler music is you can toy with stuff like that without, because I think you need headroom in your playing. If you're always playing way up here and your ability's right here,
Mhm.
you got to think a lot. You can't move on stage. You get kind of have to lock up. But
Right,
if you're playing tunes down here, but you can play way up here, you have enough room to kind of enjoy what
right.
you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
And for me, the best guitar solos and melodies are the ones that you hear somebody humming down the street.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like phrasing and talking. It's this you're talking through it.
Look at Mississippi Queen. The intro to that song, that kind of intro solo. I mean, super catchy. Excuse me. Super catchy, super memorable, super singable. Yeah.
Hmm. And then Kid Rock ruined it.
Was
He
it Mississippi Queen?
he sampled part of that, but took out the fuzz part of the guitar, which was the best part. What song was that? It's part of. I'll check it out later. A YouTuber I follow was doing a thing on it. And I remember like, yeah, he did take out the one part that was good, which was the that the fuzz guitar.
Mhm.
I've never been wrong before, but maybe this time I am. But it was something like that. But I know exactly what you mean. It's the stuff Slash does, the stuff
Yes.
Angus does.
Yep.
And I don't. The first time I learned an AC/DC song, I was like, "This will be easy," and it wasn't.
No,
There's a lot going
yeah,
on.
yeah, people. I think some people kind of overlook at how they'll look at it technically, be like, "Oh, okay, this is easy. What Angus is doing." Da, da, da. Da. But no, no, no. I mean, there's a certain kind of touch and feel and kind of vibe that Angus has that you know people can play, but they don't capture. You know,
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
it's deceptively tricky. Yeah.
And then they'll play it wrong. Like they'll play
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
bass chord, but they don't know he's grabbing his thumb on the F sharp or something and getting
Right,
cool.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And the drummer, as a drummer, I almost called
Mhm.
him Paul Rudd, so let's be careful.
No, not
Not
Paul.
Paul, Phil.
Yep.
It's not easy to play like him.
Mhm,
It's the drum beat's simple, but
mhm. But you gotta hit it hard.
you got to hit it hard, and he's very good at being where he wants around the beat.
Yes, yes. I mean, that's the thing too. It's dead on precise. It's yeah, and I mean, actually, Ryan kind of put it best. We were talking about Phil one day, and Ryan's like, he's like, oh yeah, this stuff is air quotes, easy, but it's like, how could he make something like that sound so sexy? It's just got that oomph. How he gives it that oomph. It's yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, he gives the glue that Angus and Malcolm would have needed, and then
Yeah.
Malcolm, I think, sometimes didn't quite get what he deserved because
No, oh man, Malcolm's tone and his playing. I mean, it's a clean guitar, but he hits it so hard that it distorts. I mean,
yes,
it's huge. It's amazing.
that's something that everybody says that's so true is they'll say, AC/DC doesn't have a lot of gain on. Well,
Right. It's
in
all
your
it's all
head
volume.
it does. And
Yeah.
then you listen to it, you're like, oh, they're just hitting hard on a edge of breakup or whatever.
Right. Right.
And it's just one of those. I just love. But where did that lead? You're in AC/DC. What stuff are you getting into lately? Now that you've been playing for, what'd you say, 7 years?
Yeah, I think 7 years. Yeah. I mean, okay, so yeah, of course, ACDC's, the big one. I'm a huge, Slash fan as well. Guns N' Roses. Like when I heard Appetite for the first time, that blew me away. And of course, I'm like, okay, absolutely love Slash's guitar playing. So I instantly fell in love with the his solo project with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators. I mean,
Mhm.
I love all of those albums. They're one of my all-time favorites, like as an influence and stuff. And of course, like Velvet Revolver, Snake Pit, like all of Slash's projects, his playing's been really influential to me. And of course, you got like Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith, and you got like some of the blues guys too, like or like even like some of the rock blues guys, like Joe Bonamassa, Gary Moore, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Roy Gallagher. Uh, Someone like Brian May as well. I mean, a lot of those kind of, I guess you could call it like kind of classic, bluesy kind of sounding guitar players. But they all kind of have their own fingerprint, their own kind of style and approach that makes what they do unique. More players that just popped into my head. Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath. So yeah, so many great players. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that.
Yeah.
Although Bonamassa gets a lot of hate. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, he's insane. He was the last concert me and my dad saw, like the day before the pandemic hit. And I mean, both of us, we had really good seats like up front, and we were just watching him, and like both of our jaws were just hanging on the floor. We were just like, holy smokes! Like as a guitar player, like when I went home, and of course, that was the day after was when lockdown hit. I'm like, I was so inspired after seeing Joe. I just played for like a week straight. Yeah, super inspired. Yeah.
So you saw Joe just the day before all the lockdowns happened.
Yeah, he
So
was the
that
last show. He was the last show I saw, and actually, it's funny. Um, I went out. Me and my family were out in LA in the fall for a charity event with one of the organizations we're involved with, and we hadn't been there since before COVID. And so I know the guys at Norman Fair Guitars pretty well, and so it's like, okay, hey, we're in the area. Let's just stop by and just say hello. And so stop by, and Norm's like, hey, Joe's going to be coming in here in a little bit. He's like, why don't you stick around? I'll introduce you to. And he's like, hey, then you two can jam. And I just went, huh? I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, I haven't even played in a couple, I'm like, I haven't even played because, traveling and, rusty. And I'm just like, oh, I'm like, uh-oh. And sure enough, a little while later, Joe comes in and Norm introduces us. And I was talking to Joe. And I'm like, yeah, I said to him, you're the last concert I saw before I shut down. And he says, Milwaukee? And I'm like, yeah. That was pretty fun.
did you
Yeah.
jam with him?
I did. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
That was terrifying. Yeah. I'm like, I'm sitting there, you can see in the video, Joe kind of gives the nod, like, okay, okay, your turn. I was like, oh, okay. I don't think I sucked. So there we go. I'm like, okay. Just kept it
no,
moving. Just kept it moving.
no, and pros know how to play with people. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think no matter how good you get, you want to play with people. And
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, even like rehearsals and stuff. I love like, I mean, unfortunately, because Mac's been sick, it's just been me and Ryan, but we'll have fun, just kind of hammering out. I mean, rehearsing the new tunes, we've been rehearsing those nonstop, just the two of us, just kind of messing around and jamming them. So yeah, jamming and, playing, I absolutely love it. Just that chemistry, you build up with people. It's awesome. I love it.
yeah, I wish more of the bedroom people would get out and jam like that because there's nothing like it.
No, it's to me that's what it's all about. I love playing with other people and I love performing. Like we're playing one of my favorite venues tomorrow night, one of my favorite local venues tomorrow night. And I'm just that energy you get from a crowd and just seeing everyone, and being an entertainer. I'm always, looking at the audience, smiling, hoping what I'm doing is kind of pulling them and getting them excited as well. So, it'll be cool. Yeah, to me that's my favorite thing. I love performing and kind of having that connection with people. I live for it. That's my favorite. Yeah.
I can tell, and that's great. I mean, I'm horrible at stage presence. That's not an easy thing, you know.
No, no. But watching, I mean, watching someone like Angus, you kind of pick up on some tricks pretty fast.
Yeah, no matter how in shape I was, he made me feel worse because he would end the show just. I don't know how if he had any sweat left in his body.
I mean, yeah, I mean that. I mean, yeah, yeah. I don't like you see some of those videos from the '70s. It's just like, yeah, where does that come from? Like, I get the adrenaline rush for sure, but I'm like, holy crap, yeah,
For 2 hours or something like that. He's just doing
yeah.
that dance, that duck
I mean,
thing.
and that's night after night. I'm like, whoa, like, yeah, where do you get the energy for that?
But yeah, and you talked about Norma's. I mean, you have one great guitar collection already. I'm
Yeah,
so what's
yeah,
you have SGs, but you have a lot of other stuff. What's
yeah,
some of your favorite things? And I know that's a dumb question because it's for me, it's every day, it's a different one.
right, yeah.
But what's I have two questions. The first one, what's your favorite right now lately?
My favorite, the one that's kind of my go-to. It's the SG you see in a lot of videos, and the one that I use live. It's kind of like it's like the half pick guard with the silver. You know, it's got the covers, the silver covers on the pickups. That's definitely one of my favorites, and actually, that's the one I picked up from Norms. If you see it, there's that video that I was talking about of jamming with Bonamassa and hanging out at Norms. That's that guitar. So yeah, ended up walking away with that one. But yeah, that's a huge favorite. I absolutely love that guitar. It sounds so good, and I don't know what like specific pots are in it, but they react a specific way that I really like. The neck, I mean, it's just and it's lightweight. You know, it's home. You know, it feels so comfortable and so great to play. Yeah, I really love that guitar.
Perfect. And is there anyone that every time you pick it up, you're like, why don't I play this more? But you just don't? Because I have some of those.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, which one is like that? The 339, the hollow body.
Oh yeah.
Like live. Sometimes, like, with the feedback and stuff, it can kind of. I mean, I'm sure if I did it more, I'd figure out a good way to control it. But that has that's such a great sounding guitar, and it's always really inspiring and exciting to play. Um, like I think the last time I used it live, I had the chance to. Yeah, this was actually a pretty cool story. Just thinking about the last time I think I used it live, in earlier this year, I had the chance to sit in it and jam with Orianthi.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was really exciting. It was really cool. She invited me up to play, and beforehand she sent me this tune. Hey, here's kind of the tune that we want you to that I want you to learn. And so I'm sitting there learning it. And, of course, it's like, okay, this is great. It was kind of a more bluesy type song. So I'm like, well, the 339, I'm like, that's the perfect sounding guitar. She's really fat, sweet sounding. Um, and so it fit perfectly. And the feedback wasn't that bad that night too. So, added bonus. But yeah, every time I'm like, yeah, like I should take this one out more often because I really love that guitar. Maybe I'll take it to the show tomorrow night. That might be pretty fun.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
that's in the book, the 339, right?
what
Um,
was it?
the 339, I think you did mention in the book because it's slightly smaller than a 335, right?
Yeah, that's the main reason. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the 335s are massive. They're really, especially on me. There's a yeah, it's like chicken wing. I call it like chicken wing in it. Your arm is all the way up here when you're sitting down with it. So amazing sounding guitars, but yeah, they can be kind of big.
Yeah, I have a gypsy jazz guitar. It's right behind me. You can't see it,
Uh-huh.
but that does the same thing. They're really got a big
Yeah,
body. That's how I
yeah.
accidentally figured out how pick slaning worked because I
Mhm.
was under
Yeah,
the string at a different angle, and I was like, "Oh, now I can play fast." It was like one of
right,
those
right.
things that happened.
Yep.
Have you ever thought about jazz stuff? Because that's typically where we lose people.
Yeah, no, I haven't really kind of dove into jazz yet. Um, but I did actually have the chance to meet Al Di Meola
I saw
uh,
that. Yeah.
few years ago. That was actually it's wild. He sent an Instagram DM. he's like, Peter, I love how you're playing, and I'm like, coming from him, holy crap, how great he is.
That's a
He's like,
career
Peter,
high.
I love. He's like, Peter, I love your playing. He's like, but please, I don't know if it's him, but I think he has tinnitus really bad. So he's like, Peter, please protect your hearing. He's like, you sound great. Keep that, hearing, intact. And then, when he came to town, went and saw him and met him backstage. And, it was really cool. I mean, it was a different type of show, but it was just really inspiring, really, different and cool and interesting. I mean, it was just him with like a classical guitar. And I think it was two percussionists. I can't quite remember, but it was just the three of them on stage, and it was incredible. He did like these really cool arrangements, of some Beatles tunes, and it was really really cool, really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he was always a master of sitting back and playing a song and then ripping out some 500 per minute line and then going back and it's like, whoa, what just
He
happened?
he said to me, he's like, "Hey," he's like, "you should learn what's the tune? Race with Devil on a Spanish Highway." He's like, "You should do that one." I'm like, and I listened to it. I'm like, Give me a couple of years." Yeah,
You could do it. And
yeah.
you,
I just write that down. I could eventually figure it out.
there's a guitar instructor that I love named Tomo. I think it's Fujita.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's,
Tomo. Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen him on Instagram.
Uh huh.
Have you
Uh
ever
huh.
seen how he does bends with it?
No, I don't. It's been a while since I've seen some of his stuff.
It made me think of you when I read that you don't have muscle in your thumb.
Mhm. Yeah.
He's a big proponent of doing safe bends where you don't get carpal tunnel, which that's
Oh,
not the
yeah.
traditional way. He kind of does this, raises his hand, and he gets his body to pull the neck into his hand. So the guitar weight is helping. I'll send
Oh,
you that. I
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
won't work for vibrato, but it you might get more mileage out of your bends. I don't know if it like how do bends work for you with the thumb muscle?
Yeah, it's weird. I think I literally do have to put like my hand into it more. Because yeah, there's no support from the thumb, to anchor on the neck when you're doing that bend. So it kind of stinks because sometimes it's like, you know what you need to do, but sometimes it just doesn't act.
Mhm.
You try and push yourself a little bit, but it's like, then you have to kind of, you do a slide or something to get back, get your hand readjusted or something to try and hit it right. But I mean, that doesn't happen too often. Or, I played so long, I understand, like, okay, I need to push this a little bit more to get it to pitch or something like that. Because to me, I mean, it's always been normal. It's not like I had a working thumb or, you know, a working thumb and had it go away. It's just like, this is how I play. So
Yeah, it's
it's
part of
kind of
your it'll be part of your sound.
right,
You
right.
know,
For
like
better or worse. Yeah.
for better probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, gypsy jazz, Django Reinhardt had two fingers that worked,
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that made a lot of inventive stuff happen the way he played that
Yep.
we now copy. You know,
Yep.
and as a matter of fact, when Tony Iommi had his finger, they
Uh-huh.
he was kind of depressed and like I can't play guitar, and somebody said check Django Reinhardt out. He's way less. You know, he's only has two.
Right.
These work. They were burned, so
Yeah.
he
It's like
can
a shiver
place
and something. Yeah.
them. They can be there, but he can't control them. And then
Right.
just these. So he's doing these fast lines with two fingers. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, if he can do that, I don't have an excuse.
Right. Yeah. 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 I read that. I know Tony released like a book quite a few years ago, and I read it a while ago, and he talked about that story, and it was inspiring for me too, because I'm like, this is really cool, because I'm like, if Iommi, could, if Django and Iommi could overcome this disability, especially with Iommi too, because I mean, I think it was because of that accident that it led to him, detuning the guitars to like C sharp, and you get stuff like I think it was like Masters of Reality when that first kind of came, when C sharp, that tuning kind of first, um, was used for heavier riffs and that kind of sound. So it's like, who knows if that would have happened
Yeah.
if that accident hadn't happened to Tony. But it's like it's cool too, because it's I forget exactly what it is, but it's like sometimes limitation or, something like that, it can lead to innovation,
I was going to say the
So,
exact
yeah,
sentence.
yeah, yeah,
And it's true because if you do that with your playing, if you say, okay, I'm going to do a solo, but I'm only going to allow myself the triad chord tones,
yeah, yep,
that's all you do, you will get better just by having that limitation.
right, right, and it makes you think differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think it was even like it's a different type of thing, but I mean, I think it was the same thing with like Van Halen. I think it was like the storyline. I mean, obviously, it's a totally different thing from not having a finger or thumb work or something, but like Eddie didn't have like like a bunch of pedals or some stuff like that. He get all these different sounds out of the guitar and all these different things. So I think I don't know if I call it limitation or if it's quite the same thing, but something like that gave us Van Halen one, and still changing lives today.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a thing that his son Wolfgang said that he was like, when we were at practice, Dad couldn't count. He had trouble. Me and Alex would have to get him back online, and it's like, I don't know if that's true or how
Yeah,
embellished it
yeah,
is, but the idea that that may have led to some interesting phrasing and
yeah,
ways he did stuff.
right. Oh man, ice cream. I mean, there's some stuff too, where I'm just like, oh yikes! Like the solo and ice cream, man. He's doing like these stupid stretches. like,
Yeah, like those Alan Holdsworth things where you have to get
yeah,
the elbow just right. And
yeah, or like it's like like 12 to 19. Like you know, crazy stuff. She's like, how are you doing that? And he climbs it all up the neck. I'm just like, oh,
I
yeah.
learned a secret. You tuck the elbow and you can stretch more.
I might have to
Um,
try. Yeah.
I think Tornado of Souls solo by Megadeth's 10 to 17. And I'm having
Yeah.
trouble, and it's legato at the same time. Uh,
Mhm.
Marty Friedman uses a Gibson scale. Maybe that's what I need, a smaller neck.
Right. Yeah. 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 I'm sure that helps. Yeah. The smaller neck and everything.
A little bit. Yeah, it's crazy.
Mhm.
Well, it's been an hour. If you want to keep going, or you want to stop, how you feeling?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Um, I don't quite know what else, to talk about. Talked about. I mean, is there anything else that you kind of had in mind or,
No, not
wanted?
really. I wanted to, touch on the books and I've just been excited to talk to you because you've just been I've just loved following your Instagram. I mainly am on Instagram for
Yeah.
that. This is
Mhm.
YouTube, but
Mhm.
I joined the Kiko's mentorship where he helps people like me and you,
Yeah.
like he helps people release records and do it the right
Mhm.
way, connects them with the right people.
Yeah.
But I was going to do YouTube and socials, what I was going to do. And I was like getting started. And I go, hey, check this guy out.
Mhm.
And he followed you. And he's like, you need to talk to him. Like that would be a great interview. And I said, you know what? I was thinking the same thing. And I'm very glad you came on because my channel's small. This isn't going to help you one bit yet.
Oh, that's. I mean, that's not what it's about. Yeah. It's not about like fame or whatever that it's just the joy of playing, and it's just kind of like sharing the story and sharing the stuff too. You hope that with all of these unique experiences that I've had in life, you kind of hope that sharing all this stuff can help somebody, whatever it might be, in their own life. So I mean, that's kind of that to me. That's always been kind of the big thing, the joy of music for sure. That's definitely the big connector, in all of this. But I kind of hope that sharing like the medical story and all of this stuff, you hope that it could speak to people in a different way and maybe help them in their lives, push themselves to better themselves. So that's always kind of been the big thing.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm 44. So when I was in school in the 80s, they took any kid that had anything
mhm,
into their own spot, and that's where the short bus jokes used to come from.
mhm, mhm,
But they would put if you had fetal alcohol syndrome, Down syndrome, golden hours, whatever it was,
mhm,
they took them away from us. So we didn't know anything about the differences for a long time. It actually was not a good thing.
mhm,
And so I got to learn about what you have through your book and
Yeah,
watching you. And I was struck that, in grade school, you had the same group of friends for the first, what, 8 or 9 years.
yeah, yeah.
And then your high school, when you moved,
Mhm.
was amazing. Like, I don't
It
think
was. Yeah.
the people I went to school with would not have been nice to you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's a product of ignorance of
Yeah, for
if
sure.
if you keep people separated like that. And then they were grouping brain disorders, neurological disorders with physical. It doesn't send the right message. It's like these
Right.
are like we'll put the defects over here. That's horrible. And
Mhm.
reading you, like, you had a great experience, it seems, in school. Better than I
Yeah.
had. I mean, it's amazing that we are seeing good progress there.
Yeah. I mean, lots changed within the world. Yeah. Lots of yeah, I don't know how you'd want to put it, but yeah, I mean, lots of changes for the better. People are a lot more accepting. Even through like social media too. People have such a cool way to share their stories and share all of these unique perspectives. You know, People are kind of getting educated now. Uh, about all of these different things.
Yeah, because of
In,
you.
in
People
such
like
a
you.
unique way. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's cool too because I kind of like that, the first, or at least I'd hope that, the first thing that people see, on social media that kind of, and I've heard people talk about this too, they say that like, the thing that drew them in was the music, and to me, that's instantly like the big connector, right? The music and everything. But it's like, when they looked a little bit deeper, they saw, everything else, with all the medical challenges and the social stuff and the ear and all of that, it was like, the music drew them in, but it's like, it's this whole other side to it, this whole, other perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, what drew me in was a young person playing old rock music. I was like,
Yeah.
look,
Yeah.
follow.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything else. But then, oh, he's got books. So I emailed your mom. I was like, I want 10 of them.
Yeah. Cool.
Hand them
Thanks.
out to the school. So, and I like there was a bag of picks that came with it. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we try to include some goodies, with that. Yeah.
Well, so you got a gig tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be
Venus
fun.
something. I looked it
What's
up.
that? Oh yeah, it's at one of my favorite. It's at one of our favorite places to play. It's the Vixen. Um,
Dixon, yeah.
Yep, the Vixen, and we're opening up for the band Pino Farino, so that'll be fun. So opening slot, and that'll be good. That place, big stage, big sound, especially with this Marshall amp and everything. It's a mess. It's a monster sound. I love playing that venue. We get to really crank it up and be loud and really hit it hard. It's awesome. It's such a great feeling.
So I take it you're not a modeler guy then.
Me? No. I mean, that stuff is helpful. I mean, I can see why. So, it's super convenient, and I mean, it is super helpful. I played through, a few of them before, and they do sound great. But for me, I really love that amp hitting you in the back. I'm a
Yeah.
sucker for that. But that's definitely an addiction. Um, but I mean, the digital stuff, is great too. That's come such a long way. Like the Spark, Positive Grid, the Spark Practice Amp. It's kind of a good combination of the two, really. Because you can have like the app and you could download all these different presets. But I mean, you're still kind of you're still kind of pushing air when you're cranking it. So it's a good kind of marriage of the two. You have all of these things at your disposal. Um, and then especially with the Spark too, you can dial in a really good tone, um, and you don't have to blow the ears off of everyone in the room. It's really handy. Yeah, there's lots of cool, lots of wild and really cool things that people have been doing with gear. Yeah,
Yeah, I use an Axe FX 3,
yeah,
and that speaker, that head rush,
mhm,
you don't get the amp in the room for it, but
mhm.
it allows me to record instantly. It's
Right,
you
right,
lead right in, and it lets me try different things so I know what I like. Like I know I like a plexi,
yeah, yeah,
so I can safely spend that high dollar on that, knowing that.
yeah.
So are you recording through that Marshall mic for your demo?
No, literally all it is I balance out the volume in the room and I'll listen back just as like a test and like, okay, I think the track's at a decent volume where it's not drowning out the guitar or vice versa. And I just hit record on a tripod and that's it. It's nothing fancy at all.
That's how we used to do it. Yeah, we used to try to get like the drums right. And
Yep.
that was the hard part. And there was
Yeah.
not good, were not good plugins back
Mm,
then. So it was like you had to go to a studio and
right.
you couldn't afford the 2-inch takes. You had to do 1/4 inch.
Oh yeah.
It's much better now.
Mhm.
Well, man, you're an amazing person, an amazing guitar player. Uh,
Thank you.
you have a great family. Your brother's going to school down here.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
in I'm in
he's
Missouri.
nice. Yeah, yeah. Jake's going to be attending Mizzou. Lots of family in Mizzou, so it's cool. Or lots of family that have gone to Mizzou, so it's cool that Jake's going to be heading down there. It's a cool area.
You should
He's
play
gonna
down here. I can come see you.
yeah, yeah. Hey, maybe we could play. Maybe we could play the college campus. That would be fun.
You
Yeah,
can. It'll let you do that.
yeah, yeah. That'd be cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Peter. And I'd like to do this again in the future and just keep checking in on your journey. And I have all your socials and stuff in this. And again, everybody, there's hundreds of lessons in this little book.
Mhm.
All right. Thanks, man. I'm going to end this, and you have a great weekend, you and your family.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Bye.